My sister thought she could humiliate me. Now she's the one embarrassed. Growing up, my older sister, Amanda, 32F, made my life hell. I, 28F, was the shy, awkward kid, more into books and video games than socializing. Amanda? She was the golden child. The popular one, the pretty one, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. And she knew it. Amanda had this way of making sure I always felt small. It wasn't normal sibling teasing. It was targeted, calculated humiliation. If I dressed up for a family event, she'd loudly announce, "Oh, wow, look who's trying to be pretty today," if I had a crush. She'd flirt with him just to prove she could. When I started high school, she spread a rumor that I had a crush on my own teacher, and I didn't hear the end of it for years. And my parents? They never stepped in. "That's just how Amanda is," they'd say. "She's just teasing you. Don't be so sensitive." But it wasn't teasing. It was years of her tearing me down, always in ways that made it impossible to fight back without looking like I was overreacting. So eventually, I stopped trying. I shut down, focused on school, and planned my escape. The second I got into college, I left our hometown and never looked back. I built my own life. I got a great job, made amazing friends, and finally felt happy without Amanda's shadow looming over me. I was doing well, but Amanda? She never changed. Still the center of attention, still the one who needed to be the loudest, the funniest, the most adored in the room. And unfortunately, that meant she still wasn't done making me the punchline. I hadn't seen Amanda in years when I came back home for my cousin's wedding. I wasn't excited, but I was happy for my cousin. She had always been one of the few family members who actually treated me well. So when she invited me, I figured, why not? Maybe Amanda would be too busy with her own life to bother with me. I was so wrong. The second I walked into the wedding venue, I saw Amanda holding court in the middle of the room. Big, loud, impossible to ignore. She saw me, grinned, and within minutes she was in full embarrass my little sister mode. "Oh my God, look who actually showed up," she shouted, drawing every eye in the room to me. "I barely recognized you. You finally learned how to do your hair." Cue laughter. It was like we were kids again, Amanda humiliating me in front of a crowd just because she could. I felt that old anger bubbling up, but I kept my cool. I wasn't that quiet, helpless kid anymore. I forced a polite smile and ignored her. Big mistake. Amanda hated being ignored. So she escalated. All through the wedding, she wouldn't stop. Anytime I talked to someone, she'd swoop in with some snide comment. "Wow, you're talking to people? This is new." Or, "Do you even know how to dance? Or are you just going to stand there all night?" It was exhausting. Then, at the reception, she went for the kill shot. The DJ announced that it was time for speeches, and a few family members went up to say nice things about the bride and groom. Sweet, heartwarming moments. And then Amanda grabbed the mic. I immediately knew this was bad. She started off normal, congratulating the bride and groom, cracking a joke or two. Then, right there in front of 200 people, she looked directly at me and smirked. "And I just have to say," she said, voice dripping with fake sweetness, "I'm so proud of my little sister for actually coming out of her shell. I mean, we were all so worried about her growing up, such a loner, but look at you now. You're actually here at a social event with real people. It's amazing." Cue laughter. Not from everyone, but enough people. I felt my stomach drop. I looked at my parents, smiling. I looked at my relatives, laughing along. It was like I was a kid again, helpless, the butt of Amanda's joke. No, not this time. Amanda handed the mic back and sat down, grinning, like she had just won. But she didn't know that I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was ready. I stood up, walked calmly to the mic, picked it up, and I smiled. "Wow," I said, my voice carrying through the room, steady. "Thank you, Amanda. That was really sweet. It's always nice to hear life advice from someone who still lives with mom and dad." Amanda's smile froze. The audience let out a few surprised gasps, a couple of chuckles. But I wasn't done. "I mean, you're right," I continued. "I was pretty quiet growing up, probably because I spent most of my time getting straight A's and landing a six-figure job so I wouldn't have to move back home at 32. But hey, we all have different life paths, right?" Laughter, loud laughter. Amanda's face turned bright red. I could see her struggling, scrambling for something to say, but I wasn't finished. I turned to the bride and groom, keeping my tone light, friendly, like this was just casual conversation. "And honestly, I just have to say how much I love you both. You've been nothing but kind, supportive, and wonderful. Not just to each other, but to everyone around you. It's so refreshing to see two people build each other up instead of tearing people down to make themselves feel better. Amanda's mouth dropped open. She knew exactly what I was doing. The room erupted. Some people gasped. Some laughed. But everyone turned to look at Amanda. She was seething. I handed the mic back, calm as ever, and walked back to my seat while the bride's dad actually patted me on the back. Amanda? She didn't say another word for the rest of the night. I had finally done it. I embarrassed the girl who had spent her entire life humiliating me. And the best part? I wasn't even done yet, because after that speech, the real humiliation started. After my speech, Amanda did what she always did when things didn't go her way. She sulked. Not just a little, I mean full on, arms crossed, jaw clenched, eyes darting around the room, sulking. It was glorious. She barely spoke for the rest of dinner, just sitting there steaming while the bride and groom laughed and enjoyed their night. But the best part? People started coming up to me, and not just random guests, family members, relatives, even some of Amanda's old high school friends. Apparently, I wasn't the only one tired of Amanda's mean girl act. The bride's dad shook my hand and muttered, "It's about time someone put her in her place." One of my cousins, who had always been closer to Amanda, actually came up to me, chuckling. I gotta admit, that was legendary. I don't think I've ever seen Amanda that speechless before. Even some of the older aunts, who usually ate up Amanda's fake charm, just gave me little nods of approval. Amanda, of course, noticed all of it. I caught her glaring at me every time someone walked over to say something nice. She looked like she wanted to explode, but she couldn't, because for once, she wasn't the center of attention. And my parents? Oh, they weren't happy. I saw my mom whispering furiously to my dad. No doubt about how I had embarrassed Amanda in front of everyone. Because, when Amanda humiliates me for years, it's just a joke. But the second I throw a little harmless shade back, suddenly I'm the villain. Whatever. I didn't care. For once, I was the one winning. But Amanda? She wasn't done. Later that night, after most of the formal stuff was over and people were starting to loosen up, I was at the bar chatting with some relatives. That's when I saw her storming toward me. I barely had time to react before she was right next to me, voice sharp and low. "You just couldn't help yourself, could you?" she hissed. I turned, raising an eyebrow. "Help myself from what? Sticking up for myself?" She scoffed. "You made me look like a joke in front of everyone." I took a sip of my drink. "I mean, you were the one who got up and tried to humiliate me first. If you can't handle it being thrown back at you, maybe don't dish it out." Her nostrils flared. Amanda had spent years making me the butt of her jokes, but now that the tables had turned, she couldn't handle it. She leaned in, voice low and venomous. "You think people are laughing with you? They're laughing at you." I just smiled. "Well, at least they're not laughing at my life choices." Boom! Amanda turned bright red. She opened her mouth to say something else, but before she could, my cousin Derek walked up and clapped a hand on my shoulder. "That was the best thing I've ever seen," he said, grinning. Then he turned to Amanda, still smirking. "You mad because you finally got a taste of your own medicine?" Amanda's jaw tightened. She hated Derek. Mostly because he was the only other person in our family who had ever dared to call her out on her bullshit. "Whatever," she snapped, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "I have better things to do than waste my time with you two losers." She turned on her heel and stormed off. Derek and I just looked at each other and burst out laughing. But here's where things get even better, because Amanda wasn't just embarrassed. She was furious, and when Amanda gets mad, she gets reckless. So she did something really, really stupid. She decided to one-up me. I don't know if she had been planning something all night or if she acted on pure impulse, but about half an hour later, I saw her talking to the DJ. Should have been my first warning sign. The second warning sign? The way she kept glancing at me with this smug little smirk. Then, the DJ grabbed the mic. "All right, folks, we've had some great speeches tonight," he said cheerfully, "but one of our lovely guests wants to share a little surprise with everyone. So let's give it up for Amanda!" Oh, oh no. I immediately knew this wasn't going to be good. Amanda practically skipped to the front of the room, all fake sweetness and dramatic pauses. "I just want to take a moment," she began, "to talk about family." I internally groaned. "Family is so important," she continued, clasping her hands together like she was performing a monologue. "And no matter what happens, we always love each other. Even when they're a little awkward, even when they don't always know how to handle social situations, even when they need a little help coming out of their shell." People shifted uncomfortably. They knew exactly what she was doing. I kept my face neutral, but inside, I was boiling. She smiled sweetly. So I thought, what better way to celebrate my amazing little sister than to give her a special moment? She turned to the DJ, hit it, and then the music started. The worst part? It was a song from a cringe inducing childhood video of me dancing, something Amanda had never let me live down. The screen behind her started playing the video. My entire body went stiff. I was maybe 8 years old in the clip, flailing around in the most awkward, dorky way imaginable, the kind of thing that was cute when you were a kid but mortifying when played in front of a ballroom full of people. And Amanda, she was eating it up, laughing, clapping, milking the moment for all it was worth. Oh my God, look how cute she was, she gushed mockingly. She's always been such a little performer. People laughed, some awkwardly, some genuinely, but not in the way Amanda wanted, because she expected everyone to join in on the humiliation. Instead, they just looked uncomfortable. And me? Oh, I wasn't going to let this slide. Amanda thought she won. She had no idea what was coming next. I sat there watching my 8-year-old self flail around on the giant screen while Amanda basked in the moment like she had just pulled off the ultimate humiliation. People were laughing, but not in the way Amanda wanted. Some chuckled awkwardly, glancing at me, clearly unsure if this was funny or just mean. Others just looked uncomfortable because this wasn't some sweet, nostalgic moment. This was Amanda mocking me. Again. She clapped her hands together, fake gushing, "Oh my God, wasn't she adorable? Look at those moves. She was such a little star." I could feel every eye in the room on me, waiting for my reaction. Amanda, standing in the center of it all, was eating it up. She thought she won. She had no idea what was coming next. I took a deep breath, stood up, and much to her surprise, walked straight to the mic with zero hesitation. "Wow, Amanda," I said, keeping my voice steady and light. "I really appreciate you digging up this old video. It's actually kind of nostalgic. I remember this day so well." Amanda's smirk faltered. She was expecting me to crumble, maybe even run out of the room, not smile. I turned toward the crowd, still holding the mic. In fact, I continued grinning, this was actually the same day Amanda threw a full-on temper tantrum because I got picked to do the solo dance at our recital, and she didn't. The laughter in the room shifted. It wasn't at me anymore. I watched Amanda's eyes go wide. "Oh, you guys would have loved it," I went on, as if I were just telling an innocent, funny story. "She screamed so loud the teacher had to call our mom to come get her. And she didn't stop crying for hours." A few people gasped. Then, laughter. Louder this time. I kept going. "And if I remember correctly," I mused, tapping my chin dramatically, "that's also the same recital where she forgot the routine during the final performance. Oh man, I wish we had that on video." More laughter. Amanda's face went from red to pale. People were whispering, some were grinning, others were just straight up laughing at her. I looked back at the screen. The video was still playing, my younger self flailing across the stage. I turned back to Amanda. "I think that's enough of that, don't you?" Before she could respond, I nodded at the DJ. The screen flicked off. Amanda's jaw tightened. She had completely lost control. I handed the mic back to the DJ, smiling politely as I walked back to my seat. Someone clapped. Then another. Before I knew it, people were actually applauding. "Amanda!" She looked like she was going to explode. I could see it, that familiar rage. The same look she used to have when I was a kid and something didn't go her way. But this time, she couldn't do anything about it. She turned on her heel and stormed out of the room. And let me tell you, that was satisfying. But I wasn't done yet, because while Amanda had embarrassed herself in public, I still had one more move to make, and it was going to wreck her. The reception carried on, and after about 20 minutes, Amanda slithered back in. She wasn't as loud as before, didn't try to steal the spotlight again. She just sat at her table, drinking way too much wine, probably hoping people would forget what happened. They didn't. I could feel people still talking about it, but I wanted to make sure Amanda felt it. So I walked over to her table. She glanced up, eyes still burning with embarrassment, and hissed, "What do you want?" I pulled out my phone, opened an old text message, and then I turned the screen toward her. She froze. Because right there, clear as day, was a message she had sent me 2 years ago, a message where she begged me for money. I leaned in, my voice low enough so only she could hear. "I just want to remind you," I said softly, "that you might want to be a little nicer to me." Amanda's eyes darted to the screen. She knew exactly what it was. She had been struggling financially for years, constantly living paycheck to paycheck, still stuck at home, and despite all her bravado, she had asked me for money. And I had helped her. because I'm not a monster. But after tonight, oh, I was done playing nice. I tilted my head, watching her squirm. Would be a shame if everyone found out you needed my help, huh? Her face turned completely white. You wouldn't, she whispered. I smiled. Try me. For the first time in her entire life, Amanda had nothing to say. She just sat there, lips pressed together, completely speechless. And I turned around and walked away. Because I had already won. Amanda spent the rest of the night silent. No more snide comments. No more trying to be the center of attention. She knew she had pushed too far. And I had finally put her in her place. But there was one more thing, because after that night, Amanda's entire reputation was about to take a hit, and this time, she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of it. The night after the wedding, I thought Amanda might finally let it go. I had embarrassed her in public, thrown her own words back in her face, and made it clear that I wasn't taking her crap anymore. But if there's one thing about Amanda, it's that she never knows when to quit. The next morning, I woke up to angry texts from my mom. Mom, what did you do to your sister? She came home crying last night. Mom, she said you humiliated her on purpose. Mom, you need to apologize. I stared at my phone and actually laughed. Because, of course, Amanda had run straight to Mommy and Daddy the second she realized she couldn't win. She left out the part where she started it, where she tried to humiliate me first, where she had spent years making me feel small. And now that she had finally been called out in front of everyone, she wanted to play the victim. I ignored the messages. Then, I got a text from Amanda herself. Amanda, I hope you're happy. You ruined my night. You ruined everything. Are you proud of yourself? I stared at my phone for a second, then I texted back. Me, yep, I sure am. And that should have been the end of it. But Amanda, she still wasn't done. I spent the rest of the morning hanging out with my cousin and some friends, enjoying my last day in town before heading home. Amanda was noticeably absent, which was fine by me. But that night at the family dinner, she finally snapped. We were all sitting at a long table in a private dining room at a nice restaurant. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. The conversation was light and normal. Then Amanda slammed her glass down. I just don't understand why everyone thinks what she did was so funny. The whole table went silent. Amanda crossed her arms, glaring at me. Seriously, why is it okay for her to humiliate me, but the second I joke around, I'm the bad guy? I sighed and put down my fork. Amanda, let it go. No, she snapped. I won't. You embarrassed me on purpose. In front of everyone, I shrugged. Yeah, and you've been embarrassing me my entire life. Did you really think that was never going to come back and bite you? Amanda's face turned red. That's not the same and you know it, she hissed. You made me look stupid. I tilted my head. No, Amanda, you made yourself look stupid. I just let you talk long enough for people to finally see it. One of my cousins choked on their drink, trying not to laugh. Amanda turned to my parents, looking desperate. Mom, Dad, you're seriously okay with this? My mom cleared her throat. Well, Amanda, honey, you do tend to tease your sister a lot. Amanda's mouth dropped open. Are you serious? She shrieked. For the first time ever, my parents weren't immediately jumping to her defense. I think they finally realized that Amanda had pushed too far, and she couldn't handle it. So she did what she always did. She went for a cheap shot. You're just jealous of me, she spat. You've always been jealous of me. That made me laugh. Jealous of what, Amanda? I gestured around. You still live with Mom and Dad. You're barely holding on to a job. You had to beg me for money. What exactly am I supposed to be jealous of? The table went dead silent. Amanda looked stunned, because this time, there was no way to talk her way out of it. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't being cruel, I was just stating facts, and everyone knew it. Amanda's face twisted in pure rage. I hate you, she screamed, pushing her chair back so fast it nearly fell over. You're a freaking bitch. And then she stormed out, a full-grown woman throwing a tantrum in the middle of a nice restaurant. My parents sighed. And my uncle? He just shook his head and muttered, finally, someone said it. After Amanda's meltdown, she went radio silent for weeks. She blocked me on everything, which was fine. I wasn't exactly dying to chat with her. But from what I heard, she was furious that the family didn't take her side. My parents tried to be neutral about it, but even they admitted she had gone too far, and a few of my aunts and uncles, they actually called her out. For the first time in her entire life, Amanda had to face consequences, and she couldn't handle it. She ended up moving out a few months later, not because she had some amazing new opportunity, but because she was so embarrassed that she couldn't stand living with our parents anymore. Last I heard, she's still struggling, still jumping from job to job, still burning bridges. And me? I'm thriving. I went back home, got a promotion, and spent the next year living my best life while Amanda stewed in her own mess. She hasn't spoken to me since, and honestly, I don't miss her one bit. She spent years humiliating me, convinced I'd always just take it. She thought she could tear me down forever, but in the end, she was the one who got knocked off her pedestal. And I've never felt better.